Hey YouTube, Rob again, here bringing you a brand new video. Today I'm doing another DVD Blu update, sort of a mid-month update I guess. Just some movies that I've sort of bought and sort of got around to watching. So I've got a bit of stack here. I think there's mostly sort of foreign films actually. I've been sort of on a bit of a sort of a foreign film kick recently. So yeah, so we'll get started. First one here is a film by Luc Besson, because I'm a bit of a fan of his. I don't mind his movies. This one came out in 1988. It's called The Big Blue. Stars Jean Reno. Who else is in it? Jean-Marc Barr, that's how you pronounce it, and Rosanna Arquette. Essentially, it's sort of about well, at the beginning of the film, you sort of got these two young boys, and they're sort of grown up. I think it's in the Greek islands. It's his children, and they're sort of good friends, and that's sort of the opening of the film, the opening to it. And then the film sort of take place sort of years after, when they've sort of grown up and they've sort of lost touch, and the Jean Reno character, he sort of wants to sort of find his friend again, and so he sort of manages to track him down and invites him to a what do they call it? I think pretty sure it's like the unassisted diving championship. Basically, because Jean Reno is the world champion of that, where you can sort of like dive the furthest down without any sort of no sort of air tank or anything. You just dive straight down, and obviously who can go down the furthest type thing. And he's like the world champion for like the last 7 years or something. And he's the Jean-Marc Barr, I think it's Jacques, I think his name is, and his character in the film. He's also into sort of diving, and so sort of Jean Reno sort of invites him, to sort of take part in this competition. And we're not really quite sure exactly why he sort of invited him necessarily, but I think maybe he might have missed his friend, or he just wanted to perhaps have a bit of a competition maybe. So that's, I guess it's sort of the main sort of focus of the film, I guess, and just these sort of two guys that are trying to sort of outdo each other, I suppose, but they're also good friends. But he also got the Rosanna Arquette, very attractive, I might add. She's sort of kind of just sort of Jack's girlfriend, I guess. She sort of comes along at the same sort of time, and was very sort of interested in the fact that he can sort of dive, go underwater and hold his breath for such a long time, and so they sort of have a bit of relationship sort of throughout the film. I guess that's probably sort of the main sort of premise. I did sort of watch the director's cut, which is about 3 hours long. I have actually rewatched it again, I think last night. I watched the theatrical version, which is only about 20 minutes shorter, so it's not much difference really. I didn't sort of notice all that much difference really. I've explained the storyline, but there's a lot more going on, I think, than that. I mean, in some ways it's a film that I'm not really quite sure exactly what the point of it was, in some ways. And there's a lot more sort of, I think maybe it's obviously it's a French sort of film, and maybe it's a bit sort of lost in translation maybe. Maybe sort of a film about sort of just the water and the love of water and the love of dolphins, and definitely I can't explain necessarily much more to it, but I actually quite enjoy it. A very interesting film. Yeah, so that's Deep Blue. I've got another Luc Besson film. This one's called Angela, which I sort of had in my collection for a little while and just managed to sort of get around to watching it. This one's sort of about, what's his name? What's the guy's name? His character name? Andre. He's sort of a bit sort of down his luck, and he sort of owes money to people, around town, and he's a bit depressed, so he sort of decides to sort of jump off a bridge and kill himself type thing. But before he jumps, he sort of sees this woman. She's a bit sort of further along the bridge, and she's about to do the exact same thing. So she sort of jumps in, and he sort of jumps in after her, and sort of saves her life. And she sort of, in some ways, sort of helps him out, with during the rest of the film, to try and find some money for him so he can sort of pay back his debts, and sort of have a bit of a sort of I guess in some ways a bit of a romantic relationship type thing. And it's a bit sort of supernatural, because she's actually as you can might be able to tell by the title, she's actually an angel, sort of there to sort of sent to sort of help him out, type thing. It's I didn't necessarily like it that much though. Another film might have been perhaps a bit lost in translation because I wasn't really quite sure what was going on exactly during the film necessarily. And yeah, I just sort of found it a little bit silly, and I didn't quite understand what the point of it was. And as I said before, not necessarily quite understood what was going on sometimes. But definitely visually it was pretty good, and interesting watch, I suppose. I'll have to perhaps watch it again, and have a second viewing. I might perhaps understand what's going on. So that's Angela. Another Luc Besson film. Probably one of his most famous films. I just sort of watched it because I was on a bit of a kick for watching his films. So I watched The Fifth Element, which I've sort of seen a few times before, and definitely a very cool film, and in some ways perhaps a little bit odd as well, but great sort of visuals to it. And the film, I think there's an animated movie, probably my favourite animated movie of all time, called Heavy Metal, which came out in 1981, which I think this has definitely got some, sort of borrowed some of the elements from Heavy Metal, I think, in this film. Yeah, definitely, I'm sure a lot of people have already seen it before. I don't necessarily need to go into too much. But yeah, very good film, and great sort of sci-fi flick. And I think perhaps don't necessarily like about it is probably the Chris Tucker character. I'm not a huge fan of him. I think he's a bit sort of over the top and slightly annoying, but definitely a good film. Another Luc Besson film. That's Nikita, which I rewatched again. I've sort of watched it a couple of times before, and another very good sort of film. There was obviously, some people might obviously know there was a remake done, an American remake, which is actually not too bad. I mean, it's follows, same sort of storyline to it, and I thought that was actually very well done as well. And I think some people sort of said they perhaps prefer the American version. I think I'll probably sort of like both versions. I think really, this one's perhaps a bit more grittier, and obviously the original, I suppose, and the original's obviously better usually. Also sort of spawned the Nikita TV show, which was quite popular for a while. Essentially, I'm sure most people probably know what it's about, but essentially you've got this lady here, and she basically just sort of goes around sort of I guess stealing and stuff to feed a drug habit with her and her friends. She ends up they end up sort of breaking into this place, and the police turn up and shoot them all apart from her, and she sort of gets sort of supposedly sent to jail, and what's the word? Sort of I'm trying to think of the word. She gets killed basically. They euthanize her, I suppose. I can't think of the right word for it, but you know what I mean. But she doesn't actually sort of get sort of killed off though. She sort of just does she thinks she's getting killed, but she sort of wakes up in this room, and this guy comes in and sort of gives her a second chance at life type thing, and they sort of train her to be an assassin to I guess in some ways to do their bidding type thing. It also sort of introduces the character, the cleaner, played by Jean Reno. He was sort of obviously plays a bigger role in Luc Besson's next film, which was obviously Leon the Professional. His sort of character gets sort of moved on to that film, and gets his own film. We sort of first see his character in this movie. But yeah, definitely a really good film, I think. Wasn't necessarily the end, I don't think, sort of, it was a bit confusing, I think. But anyway, a very good film though, definitely a good film. I think both this one and the remake, I think, were both good films. So that's Nikita. Okay, so next film, probably the last sort of foreign film, not by Luc Besson. This is actually one called Priceless. It sort of stars Audrey Tautou, and I'm a bit of sort of a fan of hers, and I'm sort of on the hunt to sort of buy all her movies. This is a really good film. I think it's probably one of my second or third favourite film by hers, and definitely probably one of the sort of best sort of foreign films that I've ever seen, I think. It's really sort of funny, sort of romantic comedy. Essentially, you've sort of got Irene here, and she's I don't want to call say she's a prostitute, but she sort of plays this. She sort of seduces sort of older rich men, and sort of becomes their girlfriend type thing, and they sort of buy her, expensive clothes, expensive jewelry, and type thing. That's what I think she's trying to get. She's trying to find someone to marry, I suppose, just so she'll be sort of well looked after. I think that's sort of the idea anyway. Anyway, she's with this guy, and he sort of falls asleep, and she gets bored. This is like 2 o'clock in the morning or something, so she decides to go down to the bar and get a drink. And the barman down there, he sort of because it's like 2 o'clock in the morning, there's no one around, sort of thing. But he's got to sort of stay there until everyone's gone, type thing, before he can sort of leave. Anyway, he sort of decides to sort of have a drink and sort of sit down and have a smoke, type thing. And so she sort of comes down, and she sort of thinks that he's one of the guests in the hotel, another sort of rich man. He's sort of got to pretend to be someone rich, and it's quite sort of funny. But of course she sort of finds out, and then the game's up, type thing. And so so the film sort of goes off. I don't want a person to sort of spoil the second half of the movie, but that's sort of the premise to it. She sort of mistakenly thinks that he's someone rich, so she sort of goes after him. But definitely just a really great sort of screenplay, I think, and just really sort of funny, and it's really like the characters to it, and just a really great sort of film. Sometimes it's perhaps a bit of a sort of a cliched film maybe, and you kind of know what's going to happen in some ways, but I think it's just very well done, and I don't know, it's just sort of the way the film's made. I mean, the way it's sort of done, and it's just very well, maybe sort of cliched, and it might be something you've seen before in some ways, but just the way it's sort of done is just really good, I think. So, if you sort of like romantic comedies, this is definitely a really good one to watch, I think. I really thought it was a really good film. So that's Priceless. A few more to go. I watched a film I haven't sort of seen for quite a while, but it doesn't necessarily get sort of talked about that much. I think it's sort of overshadowed by the Shawshank Redemption. It's obviously the Green Mile, which I think sort of made by the same director. I think might be sort of the film that was sort of, you think, he made after Shawshank Redemption. Very sort of similar sort of plot to it as well in this one. You've got Tom Hanks, and he's sort of like the warden in a prison, and the film's just sort of about the prisoners on death row type thing. And you get is it John Coffey? Michael Clark Duncan's the actor. I think it's John Coffey. Anyway, he's sort of he's sent to prison basically for killing these two girls, and he's sort of got a bit of I don't want to perhaps spoil too much, but he's sort of got a bit of a gift, and the gift of healing, I suppose, in some ways. But definitely it's a really good, well-made film, and very sort of beautiful looking film, very well shot, and great sort of story to it. I think that's like 3 hours or something, but it is a really good film. I'm sure a lot of people have already seen it. In some ways, as I said before, it's I think in some ways it does get a bit overshadowed by Shawshank Redemption. A lot of people seem to prefer that one, but I think I prefer this one. I think this is a better film, I think. If you want my sort of honest opinion about it. So I mean, that's Green Mile. So it's definitely a great film. The next film is called Idiot Box, which is an Australian film from 1996, and I don't think I've sort of seen it since 1996. I just sort of saw it for cheap, and I sort of picked it up, and it's kind of essentially about these two sort of slackers, I suppose, two sort of bogan guys. They don't want to work, and they just want to live off the government, and just sort of drink, and just basically slobs. It's just a really sort of funny sort of movie, and they sort of get drunk and basically decide to sort of, it'd be a good idea to go and rob a bank, and just sort of talk about how they would do it, and what needs to be done, and so they just really sort of stupid, and sort of decide to actually go and do it, and a lot of sort of really sort of quotable lines from it, and I don't know, I just find it really sort of funny, and just these sort of really sort of, in some ways, sort of unlikable sort of characters, I suppose, but they're just really sort of funny, and just in some ways a bit mad, I suppose, especially this guy here, I can't remember his name. He's pretty much just off his rocker sort of thing, and just sort of doesn't sort of care about anyone else but himself, But just a really sort of great film, I think. Definitely a really sort of fun sort of watch. Last film sort of a film classic from 1951. Stars, where are we? Montgomery Clift and Elizabeth Taylor, and Shelley Winters. It's called a Place in the Sun. I feel that I think I preferred perhaps the second half to it a lot more than the first half. But definitely, yeah, once I sort of finished watching it, definitely a really good film, I think. Since you got Montgomery Clift here, and he's sort of very sort of poor and sort of working sort of menial jobs type thing, and but he does sort of one day his uncle sort of finds him. His uncle's very sort of rich. He's sort of from the rich side of their family type thing. So he sort of invites him to sort of come and work for him, which is a great sort of opportunity for this guy, Malcolm McCliff. He sort of obviously wants to sort of work hard, and obviously wants to be accepted, and because he could become a rich man sort of out of it. And he sort of gets like a job in one of the sort of the factories, just sort of packing boxes. He meets Shelley Winters, and she's just like doing the same job sort of thing, and they sort of fall in love. But he sort of meets Elizabeth Taylor and sort of instantly falls in love with her as well. So in some ways he's got to I don't know, kind of get rid, I suppose, of his girlfriend. Trying to get rid of Shelley Winters, because he's madly in love with Elizabeth Taylor now. I don't necessarily want to spoil it too much, but he decides to sort of kill his girlfriend so he can sort of be with Elizabeth Taylor. But he sort of goes to do it, but he sort of chickens out at the last minute. But of course, she's still an accident, and she still does end up dying. But definitely just a really good film, I think, and really good performances, I think, and I actually did quite enjoy it. It was a really good film. So that's The Place in the Sun. So that's my update. A few good films there, I think. You've sort of seen any of these films, certainly leave me a comment and tell me what you thought of them. So for the moment, thanks for watching, and I'll be back very soon with another video for you. So for now, bye.